Welcome to the Old Soul, New Soul Astrology Podcast with Robert Glasscock. Welcome here as well to Lord Jupiter. Robert, my little Sprinter van, as you know, is parked beside a wonderful lake in central Florida.
You are living the dream, Thomas, since I'm a child. This is exactly what I have wanted to do and never did. So good for you.
I have both doors open because the reason we're in Florida is the weather, obviously, and it is spectacular again this morning. So about 30 or 45 minutes ago, a cat was howling outside, and we're doing this early in the morning. So if you hear sounds of this little park where I am waking itself up for another day, well, just enjoy it along with us. You're right here along for the ride. We're going to wrap up a series that we've been doing for quite a while called The Secrets of the Various Signs. And we are at the last sign of Pisces. And the thing that's unique right off the top of this one is that we always have been observing where Pisces is when we're talking about one of the other signs. So when we were talking about Aries, Pisces was in the 12th house. Well, now we're talking about Pisces. So I'm guessing, Robert, and I was born at night, but not last night. I'm guessing that Pisces is going to be in the first house.
You guessed correctly. This is the sign of secrets. Pisces owns it. So the whole concept of secrets in astrology or in real life, I think 97% of people have secrets. And there really are two kinds of, and so when you're talking about Pisces secrets, their greatest mystery in life and the area of their greatest secrets is themselves. And this plays out on several levels. You can go very metaphysical with this. For example, Pisces is the most permeable sign of the zodiac, meaning its aura, its very life is more exposed or permeable to external images, sounds, sights, and so on. So that this is one of the reasons Pisces is so well suited for fields like psychology, which deal with these kinds of inner areas. So with Pisces, the sign itself rules the concept of secrets. And what is that? There really are two kinds of secrets, according to psychologists: secrets of guilt or secrets of shame. Now, secrets about guilt are different. You can make amends for things that you've done. You can change your behavior. If you're guilty of something, you may be punished, but then when you are rehabilitated, millions and millions of people, that is what rehabilitation is all about. And there's something to be said for people who go down a path that is illegal or, in their own sense, immoral or even destructive, and do get discovered, and they acknowledge their behavior, and maybe or maybe not, they are punished, depending on the level. And then when they come back, they know the difference. And they know it viscerally. And they're very unlikely to have to necessarily relapse because they've got a comparison. Whereas people who never, quote, sin or make a mistake in the first place don't really know what that is. So with Pisces people, then secrets of shame, these are probably the most destructive, because shame makes a person feel bad for being who they are. And that leads to a sense of powerlessness and helplessness. Now, these are characteristics, they're negative characteristics of the sign of Pisces in a chart. It's got a positive side to it too. But when we tend to talk about secrets, these are the things that we feel a need to conceal from ourselves or from other people. So Pisces, being its own greatest mystery in life, is one of the signs that can benefit the most from two areas: psychology, and I do mean like group therapy or one-on-one, and or metaphysics and spirituality, because they have both built into them. So when you meet a Pisces who says, don't bother me with any of that spiritual woo-woo, Well, you know that that person has cut that off in themselves for some protective reason, whatever that is, and it would be profitable for them to explore why. Uh, so Pisces itself is one of the richest signs out there, and this astrological, metaphysical interest and spiritual interest of Pisces is one of the keys, I think, to helping them discover their own secret treasures, which is the amazing corollary of what secrets are. We keep secrets because we are ashamed or we're guilty. And yet, once we own them, those very secrets turn out to be like buried treasure that we have now uncovered and that enrich us. So it can be an incredibly powerful process to go through. Normally, with the other signs, as you mentioned, we're talking about placing the sign itself, whether that's a sun sign or the ascendant at the first cusp, and they're looking to see where the sign of Pisces falls, because those house matters will be that original sign's area of secret. So if you have, say, Libra rising, then Pisces is on the sixth cusp. If you have Libra sun on the ascendant or Libra rising, Pisces is on the sixth cusp, and we talked about that. So with if you think about the house matters, for example, with Pisces as a sun sign or ascendant, it's its own secrets. In that case, then, think about where that person has Neptune, the house where they have Neptune, because those house matters will also be their secrets. Now, any sign can do this. Wherever you have Neptune in your horoscope at birth, that's where you will have, quote unquote, secrets, which means that the house matters are really valuable for you to think about and going back in your life and see how that may or may not influence how you relate to those house matters. And the other thing is that house matters that are ruled by any planets that Neptune hard aspects, those house matters are also affected by, quote unquote, secrets. And in all cases, they're really invaluable for you to get to penetrate. And you'll find, as usual, with Pisces and Neptune, there can be all sorts of elements involved, such as alcohol and drugs, various kinds of dysfunctionality, passive-aggressive behavior. Passive-aggressive behavior, for example, is deceptive. It's self-deceptive. It's not a direct expression of Mars or Mercury or communication. So passive aggressive is always manipulative and has a hidden agenda, which is what we're talking about when we talk about secrets. So there's a lot of rich information. I think if you start thinking about your horoscope or any horoscope in terms of where's Pisces in relation to this chart, where's Neptune in relationship to this chart, and what planets does Neptune touch? And is it forming a positive aspect, a soft aspect, like a trine or a sextile with that planet? Because house matters ruled by that planet, that Neptune trines or sextiles are going to go well for me. And there are also houses where I can develop my spirituality and also my perceptivity, my perception of insights into people and so on. So you start getting very metaphysical and spiritual with that trine. Here, on the other hand, if I have Neptune square my sun, let's say, I have secrets connected with everything that is ruled by the sun in my chart. You see how I mean? So it's a wonderful technique to begin to explore yourself in depth, I think.
Pisces, to me, and you and I have something similar. We both have Neptune very close to our sun. Mine is closer than yours is. But so we can both feel a lot of this, of what you're talking about, related to Pisces, even though our rising and sun signs are not Pisces. And I think it is truly one of the most powerful signs from that Neptune conflict of, especially as you're saying, Pisces in the first house. Am I deceiving myself first? And then when you cross over that hurdle, you get on the positive side of Pisces and Neptune, then you are truly a force of nature to be able to help people.
Absolutely. I look at it in my own life. I have Sun conjunct Neptune. And as anybody knows who's ever studied with me, because we study all these things in these workshops, Sun conjunct Neptune is very interesting. From childhood, I loved magic. I was a member of the International Brotherhood of Magicians. This is all Neptune. That's all the acting and performing side. Then you go deeper. Everybody knows in my chart, I come from a long line of alcoholics. That's Neptune. And I was raised to be an alcoholic, as all alcoholics are, until, thank heaven, I got into astrology at 20. And the first thing I read in the book with this conjunction of mine was be very careful of drugs and alcohol. Well, here I am in the era of sex, drugs, and rock and roll, starting in the 65 and so on. And so all of those, I suddenly had to deal with what that is. At the same time, I got into astrology at that age. And so I was now beginning to understand what Neptune meant and how alcoholism and secrets and drugs and so on can play such a defining, if unconscious, role in determining whether you go up or down, forward or backward, you know.
All right, now let's bring this to as close to everybody as we can. And I think you did a brilliant job of it. So first of all, the secrets of Pisces, if you're Pisces, are resident, if you will, in your first house, correct?
Yes, they
All right.
are a part of, secrets are a part of you.
All right. Then for the about 90% of us who are not Pisces, then we're looking for Neptune.
Then we're looking for the house where Pisces falls. If we place, say, our sun sign on the ascendant, or if we have a time birth chart, the house where Pisces falls in that. I have Capricorn. I have Capricorn rising, so Pisces falls on my third house. And yes, I have a stepbrother, Pisces. My dad remarried. All right. So I have a stepbrother. And believe me, I have secrets involving both the stepbrother and my sister.
Well,
you see what I mean?
Yeah. No, that's interesting. And I know everybody.
I have Capricorn rising in my time birth chart. So where do I find Pisces? Well, it's the third house. I use equal houses. So, oh, really? I have Pisces in the third. That would imply I do have secrets. And it starts you thinking about how those issues affect your life and your behavior. Now, Pisces on my third house, every family I knew and was raised with, Thomas, were drinkers. They all were. My dad was a doctor, so many of those people were doctors. They all drank. So alcohol, Pisces on the third, became a routine. And so did the dysfunction that goes along with it, you see. Pisces on my third house. So my environment from birth, and it's true for any Capricorn, is to some degree dysfunctional, and they're meant to penetrate that if they can during life, because that can either be a source of their downfall, let's say, or a source of their success if they uncover it and make it conscious.
All right, now let's take another application. I know everybody's wheels are spinning for where their Pisces is, and we can't do all 12 right now. But my Pisces is 10th house.
All right, so go ahead.
Well, I just say, not that my business career has been 100% pristine. It has not, but I have sure tried to keep the bus in between the lines.
All right, see, if I looked at that and didn't know you, and I saw Pisces on the 10th, I would say, this is very interesting. You've got a bifurcated kind of split career. You could have gone in two directions. They all involve things like religion, metaphysics, spiritual. Do you see where I'm going with this? You have Pisces on the cusp, and look at your background. You could have been a wonderful minister. Now, that would have been within the definitions of whatever religion you were ministering. Instead of that, you, in a Piscean way, transitioned that same background, if you will, that same talent, into what you do now, which is metaphysics and spirituality, which is a bit beyond religion. It's perhaps on a more universal level.
But bring in the secrets, bring in the corruption, bring in the magician, bring in the deception of watch my hands, while back here I'm doing something else.
Well, it can be that, or it can just simply be self secrets. It would be interesting to know more. For example, I don't really, about your own transition from a background of strong religiosity. Don't you have ministers in your background?
Yes, I do actually. Maternal.
Preachers.
Yeah, this one's kind of a big one actually. My maternal. You'll probably know of this little area. In fact, my mom's grandfather, and this was up my mom's dad's side. So this is mom's paternal side. Was a minister to the Indians, if you will, in Oklahoma before statehood. He went out there to minister to the savages, right?
And who was this?
This was my mom's paternal grandfather.
Look at this, Thomas. On your 10th house, which rules the mother, as you know, in astrology, you have Pisces. And what you just described is exactly what Pisces indicates, this background. And here was a minister who ministered to indigenous people, which is also Piscean. And look at what that is. That's bridging cultures already in your mother's background. It comes to you genetically. And genetics has to do not only with physical genetics, it has to do with soul genetics as well. So you were born with this multicultural awareness of even unconsciously. And it's a much more universal. So it's already led us to talk about a really important identity factor that's hidden. It's secret in that way. It doesn't necessarily have anything to do with guilt or shame, but it's hidden and yet very potent.
This
in
is
your life.
All right. This is interesting because this man, first of all, just went out to the frontier of Indian Territory to minister from his heart. I believe the roots were South Carolina, and he ended up as a founding member of the group that founded Oklahoma Baptist University in Shawnee, Oklahoma.
Mm-hmm.
And then down by Ardmore, there's a Baptist camp called Turner Falls. And it's a big Baptist camp that kids go to from around the world. And back behind the tabernacle there is a plaque that honors him as being the founding. He and another guy, J.B. Rounds, founded that camp, Turner Falls, the Baptist camp there. So here he was in education, and what am I doing?
That's exactly it.
Education.
I was thinking the same thing.
Wow. Maybe we should start a school.
Well, do you see, though, how astrology, how effective it can be in pointing you to something to look at about yourself that's important to know? And now you just made a link between your present self in 2023 and that man and those tribes that he ministered to in your past self, which you are connected to, related to through your mother, the 10th house. And that has to do with the ego and one's status in life and one's career choices and so on. So that all points to you having to make a career decision, and look what you've done with it. It's brilliant. You're broadcasting, you're teaching to the widest possible population you can.
This is interesting, and we're going to have to wrap this up, but I have a couple of thoughts. One is we have some listener questions about this. A, does this apply to our rising sign or to our ascendant or both? Then we have a separate question about the ascendant. So let's do a separate episode to address those, okay? We'll answer the listener questions, but it will kind of be an extrusion of this, okay? You good with that?
I'm great with that. That sounds excellent. It's a great question, by the way. I can't wait for us to get to it.
Then the other thing I think we owe everybody, Robert, and I know you're going to wince a little bit at this, but then when we're done with all of this, I think what we should do is package all of these sun sign episode transcriptions together and offer it to folks so they can have the whole collection in one place. But we're going to have to talk about each of the 12 signs. You know that. It wouldn't be complete without it. We won't be able to go as in-depth as we just did, but we will skip the rock across the top. So as you're thinking, okay, where is my Pisces? What house is that in? What am I going to do about this? Don't worry. We'll cover you at least to where you can start looking. All right? So that will be next. Robert, thank you for this. Brilliant as always. And if you would like to talk to Robert, I'm getting so many good feedback emails and comments from people who have had readings with Robert, and they just basically, there's one word to describe it: wow. So if you would like to wow your astrology, you can talk to Robert by simply finding him from the show notes. We've made it easy. There's a link in there that all you have to do is click and send an email. Then we also have our Discord channel in there that is run by the equally brilliant Kristen Lawhead, who is doing a fantastic job of keeping the conversations around this and the Fun Astrology podcast going. Speaking of Fun Astrology, if you're not a listener over there and you'd like a little daily shot to get your day started of what's going on up in the sky, we do that there. And also have a YouTube channel with all of these podcasts broken out, thanks to my great buddy Chet, who has been doing a wonderful job there as well. So you can have all of Robert's videos or videos of these podcasts on YouTube. Thank you so much for listening. We're going to be back to continue this in the next episode of Old Soul, New Soul Astrology Podcast with Robert Glasscock.